Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Mohammed, your personal PMP instructor from Certify with Ease. Coming back to you guys with another video. In this video, we are going to solve 30 PMP questions using our 23 mindset principles and our 3-step methodology. Before we begin, remember that we have a PMP accelerator course. If you want a PMP coach / instructor to take you by the hand and teach you everything that you need from start to finish in order to pass this exam the fastest and the easiest way possible, then book an appointment with us. Get this over with. Have someone help you along the way. There's so much information out there. What do you know in terms of what's right, what's wrong, what's going to be beneficial, what not? Okay, so book an appointment. Let us start immediately. Number one, in the third iteration of a project, 2 team members were replaced. As the project progressed to the next iteration, team velocity declined and performance began to deteriorate. What actions should the PM take? On your exam, you're not going to see the sentence, what actions should the PM take? You will see something along the lines of, what should the project manager do first, do next, somewhere along those lines. Okay, I had to change up the questions just a little bit, but that's what you'll get on the exam. Okay, so the problem statement, which is our first step, we need to figure out what the problem is. Remember, and I'm not going to repeat this, I'm going to repeat this only once. Remember, if you are reading the problem, you need to read with the intention of figuring out what the problem is, or you're going to have to go back and read it 2 times and 3 times. It's going to consume too much time. That being said, the problem here is that some team members were replaced, which resulted in team velocity declining, which resulted in performance declining as well. What should we do? Support the team in returning to the forming and storming phases. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the answers and eliminate the ones that contradict our principles. So A is interesting. A will not make sense if you don't know what forming and storming are. Support is a good servant leader trait. And remember, principle number 3 states that we want to be a servant leader. Okay? We're going to come back to what forming and storming are. Let's move on. B, address the drop in productivity with human resources. Okay, so addressing some sort of issue with a department or with another person when the question clearly does not involve them is something that you don't want to do. This is like escalating the issue. This is principle number 8. We want to eliminate B right off the bat. C, organize a team building event. Focus on key performance indicators, KPIs. Okay, not a bad solution. You know, we have performance issues. It might help, right? D, report the issue to the project sponsor. Eliminate. This contradicts principle number 8. So reporting the issue to someone who's not involved in the situation is like escalating it, right? Let the project manager solve the issue. Okay, we are left with A and we're left with C. So it's important to discuss what forming and storming are, okay? These 2 terms over here. Okay, so forming is where your team members kind of meet each other. They get to know each other. They get to know what each, they get to know what each and every one of them are basically responsible for. And they basically get to know each other. This is really important for an Agile project because Agile is you're so close with your team and there's so much work and you're moving so fast. You have to know each other a little bit in terms of their professional experience, right? Storming, on the other hand, is where you start sharing different thoughts, different ideas, different challenges and whatnot. Okay, so different things that you might disagree on, for example, as a team. All right. Really, really important to establish, especially when you have new team members, because the question states 2 team members have been replaced. Okay, so I like that solution. Nothing wrong with it. And we're left with C. C is great as well. I would say, though, the first thing you want to do as a project manager is establish A. If your team knows each other, if they have good team cohesiveness, then everything else will come into play automatically, like letter C. I'm going to go with A. A is going to be my first choice. So let's move on to the next problem. All right, the answers are going to be in the back of the file, so you can access it. Let's move on to the next question over here. Question number 2. While managing a project, the project manager has observed that several recent monthly invoices have been disputed by the client, even though they were clearly defined. Payments have been delayed and were outside the agreed upon payment schedule, with only partial payments being made. What should the project manager do? All right. So, number 1, frame the problem. Invoices have been disputed by the client, even though they were clearly defined. Hence, the payments have been delayed. A, review past projects for lessons learned regarding payment issues. Now, here's an interesting thing. Here's a very, very interesting thing. And I'm giving you this quick hack. When the question does not mention anything about a past project, and the answer mentions, look at a past project or the lessons learned regarding this past project, eliminate that. Why? Because they're mentioning a piece of information in the answer that has not been mentioned in the question. This is a contradiction of one of our principles. So eliminate that. Log the non-payment issue and continue to track payments. All right, B doesn't really solve the issue. You have the non-payment issue, right? But you're continuing to track payments when this client is clearly not paying the full amount. B doesn't solve the issue, and I'm going to eliminate it. Arrange a meeting with the project team to update the procurement management plan. Okay. It's always a good idea to speak to the project team, but does this issue really involve them or does it involve the client? I'm going to eliminate it. D, hold a meeting with the client to resolve the issue. Beautiful, simple, I like it. Get straight to the point, involves the parties that are problematic, like the client. D is going to be your answer without a shadow of doubt. Okay, so pretty easy. This was a little bit tricky, I think, when it came to framing the problem. But when you look at the answers and you start eliminating things, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, let's move on to question number 3. During retrospective review, several project team members mentioned that they are unable to complete tasks during iterations due to interruptions and requests for assistance from other teams. As a team facilitator, what should the project manager do to prevent this? Okay. Now, on your exam, you're not going to see as a team facilitator. You have to know that by default that the project manager is a team facilitator as well. But the main issue, the problem statement here is that your team is being interrupted by others. So what should you do to help them and prevent this from happening? Meet with the affected team members and instruct them to not reduce the team's capacity. All right, fine, but is it their fault? You have other people that are bothering them. Or maybe it's saying, go speak to the other teams, right? Meet with the affected team members and instruct them to not reduce the team's capacity. Okay, yeah, you can do that, I guess. If they're talking about the other teams, the other team members, so you can do that, asking them. But I want something that's more concrete. Let's just move on. Let's not eliminate it right away. Let's just move on. Hire a coach to help all project teams improve their problem-solving skills. Okay, so there's 2 things wrong with this. Again, the project manager is the facilitator. You don't need a coach. Number 2, this contradicts one of our principles. Principle number 2, which is to not spend money right away. Not spend actually extra money right away. We should say that, right? If something costs more than what has been initially stipulated in the budget, you don't want to choose that option. Hiring a coach, if you're hiring anyone for that matter, it's going to cost more. B is gone. Advise the project team members to improve their planning and break down their tasks into smaller stories. Okay, it's not bad, but this is not a story size problem. It's a problem that involves other teams asking for things that our principal team or our team is feeling interrupted by. So C, I'm not going to choose it because it doesn't solve the core problem. So B and C are gone. Identify the root causes. Oh, I like this. Root cause, one of our key words, one of our principles is root cause. Remember, the PMI, they love to use this word, root cause or root cause analysis, root cause. You'll have root cause of the problem, whatever it means, whatever it falls in the same boat, right? Identify the root cause of the problem, establish ground rules for the project team to minimize disruptions. Very beautiful. I like this. So ground rules are used when your entire team is affected by something, where it's not a performance issue. Remember that, okay? It's not a performance issue. So they're unable to complete tasks during iterations, right? But performance issue here means more like they're completing their tasks, but they're not doing it well, okay? That's when you have to speak to the individuals. And usually when there's a performance issue, it involves one person. So you would not establish ground rules. You would speak to that individual privately. But because it involves your entire team, you can get them in a meeting room and discuss the ground rules that, hey, listen, ignore this person or ignore this team. Don't commit to their responsibilities. Focus on yours, okay? Identify root causes. I like that. Root causes is a keyword. I'm going to pick D. A doesn't really tell us what we should do. D is more of a solid answer. Question number 4. A new PM was assigned to a project during its implementation phase. The PM discovered that new tax policies posed a risk of 25% cost overrun. The PM updated the risk register and continued the project as usual. However, the CEO announced that the project might be canceled due to an acceptable cost overrun limit of only 20%. The PM was surprised by this as it was new information. Okay, so this question is trying to confuse you with the numbers and with all of the different things that are going on. The 25% and the 20%, these things are not important. What's important is the project manager did not know of something. So along this process, there's some information that had not been adequately communicated to the project manager. That is your problem statement. Very important. This is a very excellent problem, guys. If you're reading this and you get it wrong, it's fine. But if you're reading this and you get it right, because you've understood what the problem is, I can confidently say that you'll be ready for the exam. All right? So what should the project manager do? Okay, so, or have done to prevent this situation. So we're going back in the past. A, properly implemented the communications management plan. Okay. Correctly followed the stakeholder engagement plan. All right. Provided an appropriate risk response. So a lot of people will pick this answer. A lot of people will pick this answer because the question mentions, risk somewhere, risk register. So people might associate that with the risk response. So that might be the answer that a lot of people might choose, but it's not. Anyway, let's continue going. Ensure that the company's risk tolerance was clearly communicated and updated. All right, okay. So we have a situation where none of our principles are being contradicted, but they're using a specific tool, or a specific plan, like a communications management plan, engagement management plan. What is the tool that we need to use? So let's go through this one by one. A, properly implemented the communications management plan. So this could be the issue because it is a communication issue. Now the question doesn't say that the communications management plan was not properly implemented, but it could still be the answer because maybe if it was properly implemented, that piece of information would have reached the project manager. So I'm not going to eliminate this. B, correctly follow the stakeholder engagement plan. So this is not an engagement issue. Engaging someone in your project is like making sure they participate. This is simply just a piece of information that had not reached the project manager. So I'm not going to choose B. I'm going to eliminate that. C, provide an appropriate risk response. So again, this is not a risk issue. Primarily, this is a communication issue. So B and C are gone. D, ensure that the company's risk tolerance was clearly communicated and updated. Okay, so we are left with A and we're left with D. The best answer here is going to be D. The communications management plan could be perfect. A small part of the communications management plan might be faulty. That's why this piece of information had not reached the project manager. And that's why we need to take a specific approach and say that, you know what, we need to make sure that the company's risk tolerance was clearly communicated and updated. Okay, so this is a good question. It's a pretty hard one, but just understand that the issue is communications. The issue is communications. A and D are our answers. D is going to be the best answer because the whole communication management plan might not be the problem. It might be just a small part of it or just a small slip up. D is the best answer in our case. Let's move on to question number 5. A company primarily using a predictive project delivery methods hires a new project manager experienced in hybrid approaches. The project includes several unclear requirements. How should the project manager approach planning for the project delivery? So what's interesting is question 4 is really long, and this question is pretty straightforward. And this is what you'll get on the exam. You might get some long questions sprinkled in where you have to think a little bit longer, but the next questions will be more manageable. Okay, so the problem statement here is pretty simple. The problem statement is that there are several unclear requirements. That's it. That's our problem statement. A, overlook the unclear requirements and concentrate on the project's delivery plan. So overlooking is ignoring the issue at hand. That obviously doesn't solve the core problem. It actually ignores it. So we're going to eliminate that. B, hold off on taking further action until the requirements become clear. So again, not taking further action is ignoring the problem, which does not solve the problem. B is gone. Decompose the requirements and prioritize them into iterative work packages. Okay, so we have this unclear requirement issue, right? We're going to break down these requirements and we're going to prioritize the breakdown or whatever we broke down into work packages, meaning that in one sprint we might work on a little bit, and the next sprint we might work on the second bit, and the third bit in the next sprint. Okay, so I like this. Why? Because they're unclear requirements. So when you break it down and you're working on one bit at a time, things become much clearer. You know what to do now, and it's easy to manage, and you know how you should iterate as you progress because you're breaking things down and working on them small bit by bit. Escalate the unclear requirements of management. So we know we don't escalate things. Principle number 8 is being contradicted here. The best answer here is going to be C. Okay, so pretty simple. Let's move on to question number 6. A new resource has joined an iterative project team, and the project manager observes that the resource is struggling to complete deliverables on time. How should the project manager handle this situation? All right, so this new resource, a new team member, is struggling to complete the deliverable. Okay, what should we do as a project manager? A, discuss potential performance improvement options with the resource manager. So again, we don't escalate things. They're using the word discuss. Very, very good. I like that word. But at the end of the day, what's the core problem? What's the core solution telling us? That we escalate it to the resource manager. The question doesn't even involve the resource manager. So why should we even involve him or her in our solution? So A is gone. Offer performance feedback during the retrospective meeting. So this is good. There's only one thing. The retrospective meeting. That's at the end of the sprint. We're dealing with this sprint right now, and we need this person to step up right now. This delays the issue. Okay? Never settle for a delay. This is principle number 2. Eliminate. Address the performance issue by coaching the new team member. Okay, not bad, right? You coach the new team member. I like the word coaching. That's a servant leader trait, principle number 3. D, ask the project sponsor to provide a more efficient replacement. So we don't go to the project sponsor. We don't escalate things. Eliminate it because it contradicts principle number 8. And C is going to be our best answer. Cool, awesome. Let's move on to number 7. And before we move on, remember, guys, I have a course that includes everything. You can wait and follow through with these videos, or you can get everything in one shot and get this process over with. I have a package for everyone, so if you're interested, please book a call with me and we can discuss further. Okay, number 7. A large corporation is transitioning from a predictive approach to an agile. A project team experienced in agile practices encountering significant conflicts with executives over the processes to follow. How should these conflicts be addressed? Okay. And that's what usually happens when you go from predictive to agile. It's a huge change. And because of that, there's a lot of conflicts. There's a lot of conflicts in the process, in the practices, whatever it may be. Right? That's our problem statement. What should we do? A, provide training for the executives on agile practices. Okay. That could work. Right? A training program that where they get informed about agile. Invite the executives to participate in team retrospectives. Not necessarily, right? Number one, it's at the end of the project or at the end of the sprint. So they're probably encountering conflicts during the execution of the sprint itself. So we need to figure out a solution that's going to cater towards that, right? And what are they going to do in the retrospective anyways? They're not going to really do anything. So I wouldn't choose that right away. Let's just leave it. It doesn't contradict our principles, but I don't feel great about that answer. Negotiate with the executives to establish an agreed upon process. Let's leave it for now. Request that the executives adopt agile practices. Okay, so D is obvious. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we need to do. But what's the how? What's the process? So D is gone because it's obvious. All right. Technically, it doesn't eliminate any of our principles, but it's not a strong solution because it doesn't tell us how. Okay, so we're left with what? We're left with C, and we're left with A. I'm going to go with A. That's the first thing you want to do. Because when you're transitioning from predictive to agile, it's a big culture change. And one of our solutions, one of our principles is that when you are transitioning from from predictive to agile, introduce agile concepts slowly. Training is going to be essential for your executives because they'll know what is actually happening in the processes. And then after that, you can then negotiate with the executives to establish an agreed upon process. So the best answer here is going to be A. Question 8. A transportation company is overhauling its operational processes at the primary system and the primary system used for freight movement. The scope statement has been established and stakeholders have agreed on an iterative delivery approach. What should the project manager do next to help the team understand the tasks ahead? Okay, so the problem statement here is what? The team has agreed on iterative delivery approaches. I don't care that it's a transportation company and there's operational processes. All I care about is that that they're using an iterative delivery approach. Okay, so what should the project manager do next to help the team understand the tasks ahead? A, develop the requirements management plan to define how project requirements will be gathered, analyzed, documented, then assign the requirements to the team members. Okay. All right, this sounds okay. Collaborate with the team to break down the scope into a work breakdown structure and work packages to define the necessary deliverables and timelines. Begin drafting the project management plan, including work packages, a detailed schedule, and task assignments for team members. Work closely with the stakeholder WBS and assign specific tasks with deadlines to team members to initiate the work. Okay. So this is a little bit of a problem, this question over here. I'm not going to change it because I really believe that, number one, this is a great learning experience. In the question, we mentioned something. We want an iterative delivery approach. In the answers, all of these answers are what? All of these answers seem like they're predictive. Develop the requirements management plan to define how project requirements will be gathered, analyzed, and documented, then assign requirements to team members. That sounds very predictive, right? You're talking about a management plan. You're gathering all the requirements. You're not taking an iterative approach. You're having everything in front of you. Collaborate with the team to break down the scope into work breakdown structure and work package to define this. Again, WBS, predictive. Begin drafting the project management plan, including work packages, a detailed schedule, and task assignment for the team members. Okay, project management plan, predictive. And they mentioned detailed schedule. That's predictive, 100%. Work closely with the stakeholders to develop the WBS and assign specific tasks with deadlines to team members to initiate work. So same thing. Everything sounds so predictive here. Now, this is not a question that you can expect on your exam, meaning that it won't be this difficult. But I want you to use your brains a little bit, and I want you to think. Okay. So that being said, what is the best answer now? We're talking about an iterative delivery approach, and we're dealing with all predictive type answers. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to agile projects or hybrid projects or iterative in this case, the main thing is that yes, you don't necessarily have as detailed plans as predictive projects do. However, you still have plans. You still have project plans. They're not going to be detailed, but you still have them. When you develop the requirements management plan and you define the project requirements, you know exactly what you need to work on. You know exactly what you need to work on. So remember this. The scope statement has been established and stakeholders have agreed on an iterative delivery approach. What does that mean? That means that the delivery in itself is going to use a agile approach, or in this case, an iterative approach, right? For your exam, just think of them as the same thing. Don't get too confused. The other parts of the project can be predictive. What should the project manager do next to help the team understand tasks ahead? A is going to be the best answer, right? How are you going to know what to do? And how are you going to know what to execute if you don't even know the requirements? You need these requirements. You need to understand what you are building, okay? B is going to be the best answer. All right, guys, we're doing great. Let's keep it up. If you're enjoying this video and if you're enjoying all my videos on my channel, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, your family, your cat, if your cat is taking the PMP exam, because we're growing this channel together and I just feel so blessed. This whole couple of months, actually, not even a year, a couple of months, we just grew this channel from like about 50 subscribers to more than 2.4K, right? At this time. So anyways, question number 9, after a project is approved, a key stakeholder informs the project manager that the current project management strategy is not well defined. The stakeholder also expresses not wanting to hold a working session. What should the project manager do first? Problem is that the project is not well defined. That's what it is. Share the project documents and invite the key stakeholder to discuss any concerns. Okay, so I like this. Taking a step back, you're discussing things and you're addressing the person's concerns. Pretty standard stuff, right? And they ask you, what should the project manager do first? So that's the first thing you actually want to do. But let's move on. Invite the key stakeholders to the project's change control board to discuss adjustments to this project strategy. Okay, so is that what we want to do first? Or do we want to understand this person's concerns first before even thinking of making a change? So B is not going to be the answer. I want to do something else first, which is A for now. Ask the project sponsor. So I'm going to eliminate this right away. You don't escalate things to the sponsor. Proceed with a working session for teams that do not involve the key stakeholder. Okay, so they say that they don't want to hold a working session. So why are we going to proceed with a working session for teams that do not involve the key stakeholder? And again, we need to involve this key stakeholder, right? It's a key stakeholder. We need to involve him or her. But the best answer here is going to be A. This is principle number 1 in action. Take a step back and you pick that as your first option. And then you'll have different other solutions that follow principle number 1, in this case, A. Okay? That's going to be the best answer here. 10, a project manager is overseeing a hybrid project. After attending an iteration review, the stakeholder tells the project manager that they are very busy and questions the frequent occurrence of these reviews. How should the project manager respond? So the stakeholder says basically like all of us are thinking during our work meetings, what's the point of this meeting? It could have just been an email, right? That's what the stakeholder is thinking. What's up with all these frequent occurrences, frequent meetings, right? Do we really need them? Okay. A, log the issue in the issue log and escalate the conflicts to project sponsor for resolution. So this is not really an issue that you would log into your issue log. It's a simple situation with a stakeholder questioning the meetings, the frequency of them, and of course, we don't escalate things. Eliminate. B, inform the stakeholder that their attendance at all reviews are required by the stakeholder engagement plan. So this is mentioning information that has not been mentioned in the question. How do we know that this specific project stakeholder engagement plan mentions that he has to show up or she has to show up to all the meetings? This is one of our principles. Remember, when the question mentions something or when the answer mentions a piece of information not mentioned in the question, eliminate that answer. My principles are actually going to be linked in the description, so you can always refer to them. C, discuss with the stakeholder the benefits of the hybrid project and how frequent reviews contribute to greater value. I love that. Beautiful, beautiful. Discuss, take a step back, right? Clear up any gaps in any understanding. Amazing. Negotiate with the stakeholder to reduce their review attendance and update the stakeholder engagement plan accordingly. I like C. C is going to be the best answer. We might actually need the stakeholder very, very frequently, or maybe every time. The reason being is because he might maybe or she might be one of the main people that we need to discuss things with. So C is going to be the best answer, and I'm going to go with that. All right, question number 11. A retail chain is evaluating a project to replace payment systems across all stores in multiple locations, although the project doesn't meet the financial threshold. Is that how you pronounce it? Let me know in the comments if I pronounced it correctly. It is expected to increase market share, enhance customer service, and improve customer retention. The project will be implemented in phases. Okay, I really like this question, guys. This is a very, very good question. It's a very good question because a lot of people are going to misread this question. And I want to ask you this question, and you're going to pause the video and you're going to answer it. You're going to answer it to yourself because I can't hear you. What phase are we when it comes to this project? Are we in the beginning? Are we in the middle? Are we in the end? Where are we in this project right now? Because that's going to change the entire answer. Okay, pause it and think about it. But we are in the beginning of the project. We haven't even started. We haven't even executed, right? We're thinking about evaluating this project and replacing systems. And we're looking at the project. It doesn't necessarily meet our financial goals, but it's expected to increase market share and has all these benefits, okay? So look at the answers now. Look at how easy this is. Just because you have this piece of information, you will be able to just get to the answer. Ask the benefits owner to reassess the identified risks affecting the financial outcomes. We are not at that stage yet. We are at the beginning of the project. Risks occur mainly when you start executing the project. We are not there yet. We are just looking at this project from a more general, holistic view. We're at the beginning. Eliminate. Use a fishbone diagram. Fishbone diagrams are used when you are facing problems. RCA or root cause analysis, fishbone, they're the same thing. Ishikawa, that's a Japanese term for it. I don't think the PMI uses that, but it's good to know. They're all the same. We're not at that stage yet in the project. Consult with experts on ways to reduce costs and increase the financial value of the project. So we are not at the reducing the cost phase, meaning that, yes, just because our project doesn't meet the financial goals does not mean that we have to reduce costs right away. In addition, I don't want to consult experts right away because it's going to cost more money, okay? D, quantify the expected tangible and intangible benefits in the benefits management plan for each phase. Very good. Awesome. I like that answer. Why? Because you're looking at the benefits of the project. You're looking at the value that it delivers. If you don't know the value, the benefits, then how do you know it's going to be worth it at the end of the day, right? So you want to look at the expected tangible and intangible benefits. So if I choose this answer, it tells me something though. It tells me that I'm not in the beginning of the project, but I am in the planning phase. And if I'm in the planning phase, then I am formulating all my plans. And in that planning phase, you also have the benefits management plan. So we're not at the execution phase yet, guys, right? We're not at the execution phase yet. We are at the phase where we're still assessing things, okay? We are getting ready to execute. So D is going to be the answer. This is a really good question, guys. If you got it, congratulations. If not, no worries. It's a pretty tough question. Okay, so I'm doing this live with you guys right now, actually. So I might I might get some questions wrong. Hopefully not. But I was reading this question and the first line caught my attention. First line, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a question, a tricky question. Okay. Anyways, let's move on to question number 12. During the implementation phase of a construction project, the customer requested that a key subcontractor deliver a work package earlier than planned. The subcontractor was unprepared and asked the project manager for additional funding. Customer requested that a key subcontractor deliver a work package earlier. Meaning the customer is saying, hey, we need to expedite this thing. And now, because of that, the subcontractor needs more money to finish this faster. What should we do? Update the risk register and project log and monitor the budget carefully. Okay, technically, yes, it can be a risk, right? I'm not going to eliminate it. It can be a risk because you have this person, a customer saying that you need to deliver earlier. And if you don't, then as per the customer's perspective, it will be delayed. Anyways, let's move on. Let's see what else there is. Adjust the project scope to accommodate the changes in the budget. Okay. So the reason I don't like B right away, even though, adjusting project scope, even though you can do it, the reason why I don't like B is because B is accepting the fact that the budget will increase, right? Just because the customer says something, guys, even though the customer is always right, quote unquote, right, does not mean that you have to follow what the customer says. Remember that you're in an agreement with the customer. You are going to build this customer something, but just because the customer wants something magically does not mean it's going to happen. Let's move on. Submit a change request to accelerate the project as per the customer's request. Okay. Request additional funds from upper management up to the project budget. Okay, so D is going to be eliminated, right? Again, we don't want to request additional funds right away. And why from upper management? What are they going to do? Right? I would say go to the project sponsor. This is the only case. This is the only time where if you need more money and you don't have money, that's when you go to the project sponsor. So what are we left with now? We are left with A and C. So we're left with A and C. And what we're going to do now, this is really tricky too. The reason why C is a good option is that submit a change request to accelerate the project as per the customer's request. Now, here's the thing, guys. I'm going to give you this hack. When they say submit a change request, that is totally fine. I agree with you 100%. It's something that's affecting the budget. You want to do that. Submit a change request and then they follow it with something else. For example, so that the funds can be transferred to the client, or so that the project can be accelerated as per the customer's request. You never want to pick that. If the change request chooses a side, you never want to pick that, because what's the purpose of a change request? The purpose of a change request is to look at a change and then to decide whether or not we will reject or accept that change. So C is basically saying, hey, submit a change request, but no matter what, we're going to still accept the change and accelerate the project as per the customer's request. Eliminate that. Okay, very important, very powerful hack. Eliminate that. I'm going to go with A, update the risk register and project log and monitor the budget carefully. You're going to update the risk register because it is an increase in budget, right? There is a chance there is a chance the project can be delayed now, so you have to accommodate for that. And you want to monitor the budget, right? We might have the budget available in the contingency reserves. We don't know that. We might have it. So we want to monitor the budget carefully, okay? If C said submit a change request and that's it, I would choose it. But it doesn't. Remember that. Very important, guys. A change request does not mean a yes. It can mean a no. In real life, a lot of the times it does mean a no. If you say C, C is saying submit a change request, and yes, agree to the customer's, what is it called? Having the work package delivered earlier. Okay? Very important. This is a tough question. I asked my assistant to give me some tough questions. These are very, very tough. These are really good. Wow. All right, let's move on to question number 13. An agile project is conducting activities to define the MVP. During the session, the project manager identifies some mandatory regulations, but the team does not reach a consensus on including them in the MVP. As doing so may extend the project timeline. What should the project manager do? All right, so we have this MVP, but the team does not reach consensus, so they're not agreeing on something, and because of this, we might be delayed. All right, so what should we do? Request a project sponsor, so we don't do that, and we don't extend the project timeline, because that means that you have accepted the delay. That's principle. There are two principles being contradicted here. Principle number 2 and principle number 8. Eliminate. Secure the team's commitment to include all required regulations. Okay, so that means that now the PMP will not use the word secure. What B is basically saying is you're kind of going in there as a PM because the team can't decide, and you are basically, in a way, deciding for them, which a project manager has to do, especially when consensus is not reached. And because we don't have time, it may extend the project timeline. Explain to the participant that the importance of focusing solely on product functionality. Okay, so this doesn't solve anything. They're having a disagreement. We need to solve that. Provide training to the team on the new regulations and instructed. Okay, D and C does not solve the question. A, we don't do that. Contradicts our principle. We are left with B. B is going to be the answer. Let us move on. Question number 14. A PM is overseeing the construction of a bridge. The major components of the project are managed using a predictive approach, while the software responsible for retracting the bridge is being developed using an agile. During software development, the workflow is frequently interrupted by delays or obstacles caused by insufficient information. How should the project manager address this situation? All right, awesome. So we have the situation where we have a hybrid approach, basically. Some parts are using a predictive approach, some are using a agile approach, but we also have the situation where the workflow is frequently interrupted by delays, okay, or obstacles caused by insufficient information. A, increase the frequency of retrospectives to speed up delivery. Frequency of retrospectives. No, how's that going to speed up delivery? You should have one retrospective at the end of the sprint. If you don't get things done in your retrospective, then that means you're inefficient, right? So A doesn't solve the answer, not because of what I just said, but because of the fact that also retrospectives are at the end of the sprint. And you're dealing with the problem now. So you're not solving the problem, you're actually delaying it. Principle number 2, you eliminate it. Use Kanban boards to make work visible. I like that. Kanban boards are going to be used for the agile component, but the workflow is frequently interrupted or caused by insufficient information. Very important. A Kanban board will highlight all the information that's available. Okay, so let's leave B for now. Introduce small batches of work into the project. So this doesn't solve the core problem. Our problem right now is that we have obstacles caused by insufficient information. Things are frequently interrupted. What do we do? How do we solve that? Apply lean manufacturing principles to limit the team's work. Okay, lean manufacturing. Why manufacturing? You can limit the team's work, especially if they're doing other things that they're not supposed to, but the question doesn't indicate that. The question doesn't indicate that the team is doing things they're not supposed to. So I'm going to pick B. B is a very excellent tool, okay, to use for this situation. Remember, when people don't know what's going on, especially for an agile project or when there's insufficient information, Kanban is your way to go, okay? Question 15. All right, guys, I know this video is going to be long, but listen, if you made it this far, keep on going. I promise you that if you watch this video, and if you watch my mindset video as well, they're very important videos, you'll be more than prepared for the exam, okay? Or at least you'll be really prepared for it. You just have to practice more on questions, okay? I see people watching my videos, but they only watch maybe 10 minutes of it, and then they move on to probably cat videos or something. So if you're serious about taking the PMP, I'm telling you guys, this is what you need. This is what you need. All right, 15. Marketing team is adopting hybrid approaches for their projects. The marketing director, however, is unfamiliar with hybrid methodologies, and the project manager needs to the director's support as their key stakeholders. What should the project manager do to gain the director's support? All right, I already know what this answer is going to be. Marketing director doesn't know about agile or hybrid. You got to teach him, or you got to do something that's going to fill in that knowledge gap. Train the marketing team and keep the director updated. Okay, so I'm not going to pick that. We know that the marketing team is not at fault. The director is. The director needs this training. Mentor the marketing director on hybrid approaches. Beautiful. I like it. I like the word mentor. That's a servant leader trait. That's principle number 3. Let's just see what else there is. Have the marketing team members coach the director. No. The project manager is responsible for that. And the project manager should take that responsibility. When you tell your team members to do something else besides their work, that reduces their capacity. This is one of our principles too. You don't want to reduce the capacity of your team. If you reduce their capacity, how are they going to work on the project? They're not going to be able to work on the project. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull this out for you guys because hey, listen, guys, the principles are going to be in the description. If not, just put a comment up so I don't forget. But here's the thing. Number 21. I'm sorry, not number 21. Number 23, last principle. Okay, never give your team an extra task that's going to reduce their capacity. There we go. Have the marketing team members coach the director. Okay, no. D, request the marketing director's participation in a daily meeting. So again, this doesn't solve the problem. The best answer is going to be a B, which is pretty straightforward. Okay. On your exam, you're going to get some hard questions. You're going to get some easy questions. So everything will balance out. The PM is assigned, so question 16, is assigned to deploy a new solution simultaneously to branches in different countries. Deployment teams in each country will handle the integration and deployment of the solution. The project manager finds that each team is encountering similar issues but addressing them independently. What should the PM do to encourage more collaboration? Okay. The problem here, guys, is that you have this global project, and one of the issues with global projects is that there's a lack of collaboration. What should the PM do? That's our problem statement. Lack of collaboration, what should the PM do? Request the project sponsor. So I don't want to go to the sponsor. Eliminate that option, principle number 8. Suggest that some teams delay. We don't want to delay anything. Principle number 2, never settle for a delay. Ask each deployment team to provide a detailed schedule and action plan. Okay, I don't see how that's going to solve the problem of collaboration. So I'm not going to choose that. I'm just going to eliminate that. But let's just see what D is. Organize regular meetings with all deployment teams to share issues. Okay, that's beautiful. That's the answer. If your team is global, you'll host regular meetings online, get everyone on board, and share feedback as you move on. Okay, D is going to be the answer for number 16. All right, see how easy life becomes when you use the principles to your advantage. All right, let's do number 17. Number 17 is a little bit long. I wish I could call on one of you guys to read the question. But anyways, let's continue. A company has extensive experience with predictive projects. The PMO has been working to integrate iterative tools into the project management framework, and the project manager has been asked to use these tools in their current project. After successfully implementing the iterative tools, the PMO requests the project manager to assess the benefits of these tools brought to the project. What should the project manager do? Okay, so situation where they're trying to transition from predictive to using agile tools, and they want the project manager who basically use these tools to assess their benefits. All right, very simple. What should we do? Identify the data to monitor throughout the project along with the expected performance and targets. Identify the data to monitor throughout the project. Okay. So this doesn't really use the tools, so I don't know how this solves the problem. This is kind of strange. They don't mention anything about data, so I'm going to eliminate this. I don't have a good feeling about this. It doesn't solve anything. Update the communications management plan to include all performance review meetings with stakeholders. So performance review meetings are important, but why update the communications management plan? We have already successfully implemented the iterative tools. Yeah, what's updating the communication management plan going to solve? I'm going to eliminate that. Prepare and submit a status report to the steering committee to update performance monitor. Again, how's this going to solve anything? I'm interested in looking at the benefits of these tools. Hold reviews with stakeholders to discuss the potential benefits and the iterative approach may have brought to the project. Beautiful. Okay, you review things with all the other stakeholders. The project manager is just one person. You need to speak to your team, who are also stakeholders. You need to speak to maybe people in different departments. Maybe they've used the tools differently, and then discuss their potential benefits. Or always get people involved. That's the best way. Best way. Get people involved. Okay. So number 17 is going to be answer D. Question 18. A PM receives a voicemail from a business analyst on the project team. The business analyst informs a manager that an internal stakeholder is upset about not being included before the project began and is requesting an addition to the requirements traceability matrix. What should the project manager do to improve the relationship with the stakeholder? Okay, so I don't care about a requirements traceability matrix. What I care about is that this person is upset because we did not engage this person. And what should we do now? So it's a people problem. This is a people domain question. A, update the stakeholder engagement plan to ensure the stakeholders listed in the project stakeholder list. Okay, but they say is upset about not being included before the project began. So I'm assuming that person is included right now. All right, let's not eliminate this option. There's a little bit of ambiguity here, but let's just keep going. Review the project scope document to confirm if the addition is within a scope. Read the scope. Okay, yeah, we could do that. Why not? You know, this person actually A doesn't address that issue, where this person wants a feature, an extra requirement or feature in the requirements of the project. So we can do B, but let's just see what else there is. A, I would eliminate it because it doesn't solve the problem completely. Engage with the stakeholder to gather more information before responding to the request. Huh. That is nice. That is great. So you're getting this person involved because this person is basically butthurt that you didn't get this person involved. And you're speaking to the person, you're investigating principle number 1, and you're gathering more information. D, submit a project change request so the change control board can determine if the change is within scope. Okay. Change control board does not determine if things are within scope. Changes are usually done when something is out of scope. If something is within scope, there's no reason for a change. Okay. I like C more. C, you're engaging with the stakeholder. So when we say engage, what's the difference between engaging and communicating? Think of it as communicating is a one-time thing where you're just giving some information, for example. Engaging is where you're really making this person participate with you. You're reaching out to this person to help you out as much as possible. Team members in a soccer team, they engage with one another. Right? They engage with one another. They don't communicate in this context. They engage with one another. So it's a very powerful word here. So I would pick C. C is going to be the best answer here. All right. And after C, I would see, maybe this person will change his mind or her mind. And if not, if this person has a reason, then I'll probably submit a change request, okay? But C is going to be the best answer for number 18. Let us move on. Awesome, a shorter question. A PM notices that a project is being delayed due to conflicting views between organization senior manager and external stakeholders, which are affecting key decisions. What should the project manager do? So again, this is a people type question or people domain question. I personally find it the easiest ones to solve, but let's just continue and see how difficult this one is. Review the stakeholder register and ensure that communications are being conducted according to communications management plan. Okay, I mean, this doesn't really solve things. Even if they're not done by the communications management plan, you have a conflict between two people, right? Isolate the project team from external factors like senior management and stakeholders to speed up decision making. No, because you have these senior management external stakeholders. They're a part of the project. Even if they're not a part of the project team, they're still a part of the project. Review the remaining scope and re-baseline the project schedule to account for delays. Okay, when you account for delays, when you do something to account for delays, you have accepted that there's going to be a delay. Okay, you have accepted. Actually, no. A project manager notices that the project is being delayed. Okay, review the remaining scope and re-baseline the project schedule to account for the delays. Yes, my apologies. So we don't want to accept the delay, even though the project is being delayed. What you're doing is you're saying that, you know what, you're throwing your hands up in the air where our project is being delayed, might as well delay it. Let's just move according to that. No, you want to take the proactive step and say that our project is being delayed, right? It's being delayed. What can we do right now to fix this problem on the spot? Remember that delays for a project are detrimental. Even though in real life it happens all the time, according to PMI, it should not happen, right? Or you should do everything that you can to avoid. Evaluate the project's governance and ensure that an appropriate structure is in place. Interesting. Interesting. So a project manager notices that the project is being delayed due to conflicting views between organization and management and which are affecting key decisions. Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, D is going to be the answer. D is going to be the answer. Right? You have people that are decision makers that are going back and forth. But at the end of the day, there's always one person or one group of people that will make the decisions in any company, any corporate company. And because you have this conflict between the senior management and external stakeholders, there's a governance problem structure. Okay? D is going to be the best answer. I've seen something like this before, right? When you have conflict between not your project team, but like, for example, the hierarchical structure in your company, you want to look at the governance. You want to look at the project's governance. That will tell you who the decision makers are, who should we rely on for a decision, and then that will be sorted out completely. Okay, remember that. So that's number 19, and let us move on to question number 20. Project manager is working on a joint application development module with a 2-week delivery deadline. The module needs to be integrated with others on a similar timeline, but release management has a 3-week backlog. What should the project manager do? So we have this joint application. And we have a 2-week delivery deadline. The module needs to be integrated with others on a similar timeline, but release manager has a 3-week backlog. Push the team to deliver faster so the modules are developed and deployed according to the management request. Okay, fine, but how? How are we going to do things faster, right? And remember, faster is not always better, guys. Faster is not always better. Remember that. Very important. Discuss the bottleneck with stakeholders and find ways to streamline the entire process. Okay, very good. I like bottleneck. That's, how do you discuss the bottleneck? You do an RCA. Why? Because they say that we have a 3-week backlog. What's causing this backlog? What is causing this backlog? Why do we have a 3-week delay? If we figure that out, then maybe we can meet our 2-week mark and find ways to streamline the entire process. So this is a complete solution. Guys, remember that when the PMP exam mentions things like bottleneck, they might not mention bottleneck, they'll mention RCA, root cause analysis. A root cause analysis is used when you have a problem. You're trying to figure out the bottleneck, right? C, have the team work toward the tighter deadline to make integration easier, but how? How are we going to make the team work towards this tighter deadline? Give me a plan of action. D, speak to the team and slow down the current pace. So how is slowing down the current pace going to help? It is not. It is not. We actually need to speed up the pace, okay? We cannot speed up the pace until we understand the underlying faults or the underlying reasons why we have a 3-week backlog. The best answer here is going to be a B. Okay, this is one of the things that the PMP likes to use a lot. It's a tool where it's bottleneck. You're figuring out what your bottlenecks are. Okay. All right, question 21. An organization is adopting Agile for its projects. During an informal conversation, the project manager learns that the team members working on different teams are expressing a desire to work together on the same team. What should the project manager do? All right, so what do we have here? We have a situation where you're doing a project and you want to basically work with your best friend on the project. That's how I see this situation as. So you have these team members, they're working on different teams, but they want to work together on the same team. What should the project manager do? The PM should not allow resources to select teams as the resources are assigned based on project needs. All right. The project manager should not let resources choose their teams, as they may always opt for their preferred team. The project manager should allow resources to periodically choose which team they would like to work on. The project manager should clarify that team members have already been assigned to their respective teams through workforce optimization. Okay, so here's a quick note, guys. Now remember, I had to make these questions a little bit different. This is not a type of question that you will expect on the exam, that you can expect on the exam. The form of it is strange. It doesn't fit into the PMP style, right? But let's still go through this question for practice. So you have these team members, they want to work on the same team, but they're working on different projects. So what should we do? The PM should not allow resources to select teams as the resources are assigned based on project needs. That makes sense. The project manager should not let resources choose their teams as they may always opt for their preferred team. Okay, but that's not a good reason. Like for example, yes, they're going to opt in for their favorite team or their favorite team members. A is a better reason, right? If a person has a specific quality that is needed in a project, A is going to be the solution to that. Project manager should allow resources to periodically choose which team they would like to work on. No, again, it depends on the project needs. The resource management plan is all about that. When you look at the resources, when you look at the people that are required, the skills that are required, you need to be very selective on who you choose for projects. And the PM should clarify that team members have already been assigned to their respective teams through workforce optimization. I have no idea what workforce optimization is. If they said resource optimization, maybe I would choose that. That's more in line with A as well. But the best thing is A, okay? The project needs. What does the project need? It needs a software developer, for example. So should the software developer be able to work on a non-development project just because he or she wants to work with his or her colleague? No, we should assign it based on project needs, okay? All right, let's move on. Hopefully that's clear. Let's move on to question 22. All right, the project manager of an agile project has been instructed to reduce budget by 30%. Since it is a small project team, most of the budget is allocated to resources. What strategy should the project manager use to continue delivering value in the constrained environment? So 30% is not important. All we need to do is reduce the project budget. What should we do? And we have a small project team, right? So reduce the project staff and adjust the scope and timelines to align with the budget reduction. Okay. So again, like we've mentioned before, A contradicts some sort of information in our question. And that is that we have a small project team. So technically speaking, because we have resources, because the majority of the budget is the resource, the majority of the budget is allocated to resources, then we could do that. But I don't really like it that much because we have a small project team, so reducing the project staff could be detrimental. Anyways, let's move on. Balance the project team to accommodate the budget constraints and provide training to reduce the risk of low performance. Interesting. So how are we going to balance the project team to accommodate the budget constraints and provide training? Now, let me ask you this question. Does this solve the core problem? Did we mention anything about training or a knowledge gap in our question? We didn't. B is going to be eliminated for the simple fact that the question mentions, or the answer mentions, a piece of information that has not been mentioned in the question. Why are we talking about training when there's no indication that training is needed? All right, this is one of our principles, and you can check it out when the answer mentions a piece of information not mentioned in the question. Eliminate. Prioritize the product backlog by focusing on high business value and low effort, and adjust the project budget and staffing to reflect these priorities. Okay. So I like this keyword value. Remember, anytime there's a decision to be made, you want to take a value-driven decision. All right. Now on your PMP exam, and I have to keep mentioning these things because, again, I had my assistant make these questions. So I want to give you something that reflects the exam without literally giving you exam questions, when none of us really have those. But on your exam, you're not going to see high business value and low effort. You're not going to see this low effort part. You are simply going to see focus on high business value. But high business value, in a way, right, could be a lot of effort too, or could be low effort. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, value is subjective to what the company deems as valuable. So making a value-driven approach or taking a value-driven step or making a value-driven decision is one of our principles. So we're going to prioritize the backlog. They mentioned backlog because we know it's an agile project, and we're going to adjust the project budget and staffing to reflect these priorities. Excellent. I like this. I like this a lot. Limit the project scope to only essential features and run the project with the current staffing level until the entire budget is used. Now, a lot of people are going to choose this answer. What's the problem with limiting the project scope? What do you limit? If your project scope has been stipulated, then it is a proper assumption to assume that all of what is within the project scope is important. Because if it's not important, why would you want it? Why would it even be in the project scope? So when they say limit the project scope, there's a problem there because you don't know what to limit. And potentially what you're going to do is you're going to limit or you're going to eliminate something that's essential for the project. Best answer is going to be C. I'm going with that one. Why? Because it has the word value in it, and this is one of our principles. Any decision that you have to make a value-driven decision, right? And value, again, is stipulated by the, or subjected to the company, okay? So hopefully that's clear. So let's move on to question number 23. During the implementation of a phase, implementation phase of a project, a new regulation impacts the project, requiring a critical status meeting to discuss scope changes. The PM discovers that a key stakeholder cannot attend the scheduled meeting. What should the PM do? Okay, this is a key stakeholder, guys, okay? Remember that, really important. And so the problem statement is that we're having scope changes and we need to discuss this immediately. And there's a key stakeholder that can't make it. What do we do about this situation? A, call a change control board meeting and inform the stakeholder about the outcome. Why? So we're at the discussion phase of the scope change. We haven't discussed anything yet. Why submit a change control process right now? Or why submit a change request? We need to find a way to get this stakeholder involved so we can incorporate his or her opinion. So A technically doesn't contradict any of our principles, but it's not the best way to approach this question. It's not the best way to approach this problem. It doesn't actually answer this problem. What do we do about the stakeholder that cannot attend? A key stakeholder that cannot attend, right? So I'm going to eliminate A because of that. Update the communications management plan and implement the change. So again, what's this going to do? This is not going to do anything. It's not going to solve the problem. It's not a communications issue. The stakeholder simply can't make it. Meet with the project sponsor. So again, I already know we don't go to the project sponsor. So I'm going to eliminate that. And then the last one is D. So in the process of elimination, this should be the answer, but let's read it. Meet with the stakeholder before the meeting to gather the input. Beautiful. I like that. Amazing, right? So we know this key stakeholder, who again is a key stakeholder, cannot make it. So why not go to this key stakeholder before and gather his or her feedback? I like it, okay? So D solves the problem completely. It's a simple solution, but it's the right way to go. Awesome. Question 24. A new project has been launched has been launched following a planning session, and it is under the direct oversight of an executive in the organization. After a review meeting, the project manager overhears an executive asking one of the team members to create a dashboard to show overall project status. What should the project manager do? All right, so simply put it, there's a review meeting, and after the review meeting, one of the higher ups or the executive asks the project or one of the team members to make a dashboard showing the project status. Okay, what should we do? Update the stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. Why? Why will we update the stakeholder engagement assessment matrix? By the way, guys, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but know the difference between communication and engagement. Know the difference between these two terms. And on a side note, one of my students actually brought this up. It's very important. Know the difference between an issue and a risk. Okay? Okay, let's go back to this question now. Update the communications management plan to include informal requests. All right, but again, the communications management plan is not for that. It's not for informal requests. It's simply a plan of action that shows how everyone in your project is going to communicate with one another. So there's nothing wrong with that. You know, an executive coming up to one of the team members and saying, "Hey, can you create a dashboard for the overall project status?" But let's just see what else options there are. Instruct the team member to develop a dashboard to fulfill the request. Okay. Tell the team member to direct the request to the project manager. Okay. So what's going on here, guys? What is going on here? There's a fundamental principle in our principle sheet, 23 mindset principles. Actually, it's the last one, 23, that basically states that we should not do something that will reduce the capacity of our team. Meaning that if someone comes up to our team member who is focused on our project and asks that team member for a specific task that is not related to his or her core work, then we should not reduce the capacity of that team member. Okay, so that's why D is going to be the answer. Tell this person to come to the project manager and discuss it with the project manager. The project manager will then assess if this is something that should be done or not. Maybe this executive doesn't really know what he or she wants. A lot of executives in companies don't really know what they want, right? Maybe this executive is worried that we're not meeting our metrics and is asking for an entire dashboard. If that's the case, then the project manager can discuss that with this executive, right? But you never want to do something that will reduce the capacity of your team member. So that's why D is going to be the best answer in this case. Question 25. A PM is overseeing a project with a complex and lengthy execution period. Although the project is primarily predictive, the team has managed to break the design and execution to smaller packages using a hybrid framework. The business wants to track the value delivered by applying this framework, but there is no established set of measurable items. Okay. So in this situation, we have a predictive project or a primarily predictive project, and we're using some hybrid in it as well. So we're using some agile in it as well. The only problem is that we don't have any metrics. So we don't know if we're on track. We don't know if we're actually achieving what we need to. So what should we do? That's the problem statement. We don't know if we don't know if we have metrics, or sorry, we don't have metrics, but what do we do about that? That's our main problem. Collaborate with stakeholders to identify measurable benefits that can be tracked, assign someone responsible for monitoring and reporting them. I'm losing my reading abilities right now. There's so much text that I'm just reading it through. So please forgive me for that. A is a beautiful answer. I like this. All right. So why collaborate with stakeholders? Why? Because more opinions are better than one. More opinions are better than one. And a lot of the times when they say stakeholders, that also includes, actually almost all the time, when they say stakeholders, that includes your project team. Remember, your project team members are your experts. This is a principle in our 23 mindset principles. They'll know best when it comes to building this product or finishing this project, because they're the ones that are actually doing the work. So A answers the problem completely, and it uses the right people to solve the problem. B, create a report based on the work breakdown structure and update it regularly. Okay, but what are we doing about the metrics? What about those metrics? What do we do about them? So B doesn't address the core problem. Use the benefits tracking process from the previous predictive project and include it in the monthly status report. Okay, interesting. Does the question mention, actually, let me read this again really quickly. No, it doesn't. Does the question mention something about a past or previous predictive project? It doesn't. So the answer starts to bring some sort of information that has not been mentioned in the question. This is one of our principles. You eliminate it if that happens. All right? So C is gone. B is gone. Research the most commonly used report templates for this framework and incorporate them into the project. So how does this even remotely solve the problem? This doesn't solve it at all whatsoever. A is going to be the best answer. Remember, guys, not only do we want to use our principles, but we also want to genuinely ask ourselves, does this solve the problem? When you're doing your exam, remember this. Record me saying this. Does it solve the problem? Does A solve the problem? Does B solve the problem? Does C solve the problem? Does D truly solve the problem? Remember that. Keep repeating that to yourself when you're doing your exam. Very important. All right. A lot of times people come up with two or they're left with two answers, and they say, Muhammad, I can't pick which of the two. They both sound good. Ask yourself the question again. Which one solves the problem completely? There's always going to be one that solves it better than the other one, okay? So 25 is good. Let's go to 26. A team has been working on a project for several months, but the completion date is unclear due to frequent scope changes as new knowledge is gained. Some deliverables are complete, but when new stakeholders join, they express concerns that the project outcomes are not aligning with business goals. How can the PM prevent this from happening in the future? So we have a situation where we don't know the end date. Why? Because there's so many changes that are coming in, and now people are complaining about how the outcomes of what we're building don't align with our goals. What should we do? Create a prioritized backlog and define iteration review sessions with stakeholders. All right. It's not a bad solution. That's a good solution. When we have a lot of scope changes, what's the problem? The problem is we don't even know what we're prioritizing. We don't even know what we're doing. Scope changes means that you're uncertain. If you have many of them, it means you don't know what you're doing. Imagine that, right? Imagine let's put this into a little situation analogy. You're starting a business for the first time. You have no experience whatsoever. You can expect there to be a lot of setback. But if you take a step back and you're starting this business and you're like, step A is what needs to be prioritized, step B is priority number 2, step 3 is priority number 3, you know exactly what you're doing at that point. And then you say define iteration review sessions with stakeholders, or basically set up iteration review sessions. Why? Because with their feedback, you're able to refine each and every iteration. So A is nice. A is a good answer. Developed a detailed work breakdown structure and a milestone schedule approved by all stakeholders. Okay. I love this word detailed. This gives it away. Detailed is counter. It goes against the agile philosophy, the agile manifesto. It goes against that. Agile's all about concise, lean details, right? So all of this thing, milestone schedule, WBS, and especially detailed, that's a predictive option or predictive approach. So I'm not going to choose that. Schedule a daily team meeting or daily meeting to review team performance and address impediments. All right, so they're talking about the daily stand-up. But here's the thing. Does this solve the core problem? We still have a priority issue. So even if you have 100 meetings in a day, if the team still does not know what to prioritize, those meetings are not going to be effective. So C is out of the picture. It doesn't solve the core problem. Hold a kickoff meeting for each project phase to share the project manager plan with all the stakeholders. Again, how does this solve the problem with prioritization? And project phases are mainly for what type of project? For predictive projects. So the best answer here is going to be A. A is an excellent choice. I would pick that. Okay. Let us move on to number 27. A PM with over 10 years of experience is using predictive methodology in a project manager with over 10 years of experience using predictive methodology is transitioning to an agile project. All right, I got it now. Team members have not worked together before. After 2 sprints, the team has not achieved any outcomes, and there is significant pressure to deliver results. What leadership style should the project manager adopt at this stage? All right. So this is not a situation-based question. This is more, it is a situation-based question, but it is more of you can't really eliminate things with principles. You just got to kind of know the leadership styles that a project manager can exhibit. Okay, so a direct style that makes decisions for the group to achieve early outcomes. Well, this actually does contradict some of our principles. So A is eliminated. Why? Because we're working with an agile project, an agile team. They are self-organizing. They have to be accountable. They have to make the decision themselves. That's our principle. I forgot what number it was, but it's one of our principles where agile teams are self-organizing. So it's out of the picture, eliminated. A coaching leadership style that supports individuals seeking help and encourages greater team collaboration. I like that. So if you're not achieving any outcomes in an agile project, you guys need to maybe collaborate more and figure things out. C, a passive leadership style that allows the team to self-organize until a norming stage is reached. Okay, interesting. Let's leave C for now. Democratic style that relies on majority opinion to guide decisions. So again, there's no decision making here, and this is not going to answer the root problem. Right now, we're not getting any outcomes, right? So something's wrong with the team. So we're left with B and C now. You guys are looking at C. You're thinking passive leadership style that allows the team to self-organize until norming stage is reached. And you guys might look at the word self-organize and jump on that right away. Be careful. Be careful. Remember, in this situation now, there's a problem. There's a performance issue. Anytime, whether it be a predictive project or an agile project, whether the team is self-organizing or not, anytime there is a performance issue, meaning the outcomes are not being reached, the project manager needs to step in. Why? Because there's too much at stake. If we don't finish this project, client's going to be unhappy. We might have to cancel the contract, whatever it may be, right? So a passive leadership style won't work because we know the team has not reached any outcomes. We know that they're having difficulty. That's why we're going to move on to B. All right, B is going to be the best answer here. So this is a beautiful example of not jumping to the answer right away, but really looking at the situation and asking yourself which one of the two, in this case B and C, solves the problem. Okay, so B is going to be the best answer in this case. 28. During a project execution, a PM learns that most of the project team members have signed up for the newly introduced work from home company policy. Oh, wouldn't that be great if we all can just work from home? Companies should definitely consider, at least for us. How should the project manager reflect this change in the project? Okay, so problem statement is that people are basically opting in for this new work from home policy. So the bottom line is that people are going to start working from home instead of in the office. What should we do? Update the communication styles for enrolled team members in the communications management plan. Okay, that's a great solution. Why? Because communication is definitely going to take a drastic change. You have people working from the office. everyone's in the same location. 2, now being at home, so we have to basically do things virtually. Now, ideally, when it comes to a project, it's best to actually have people in the same location. There's no doubt about that. But because there's this new policy, we have to figure out how the team members are going to communicate with one another, how the stakeholders are going to get a hold of one another as well. Modify roles and responsibilities for enrolled team members in the responsibility assignment matrix. So this is not a roles and responsibility question. Just because you work from home does not mean that your role in the project or your responsibility in the project is going to change. Not for the most part. If you are a software developer for a software development project and you're working from the office, you're going to still be the same software developer working from home. C, revise the stakeholder engagement plan to include emergency contact details for enrolled team members. So I like how they said the stakeholder engagement plan, because engagement is going to take an effect as well, or it's going to be affected from people working from home instead of the office. But look at the second part. So they're saying revise the stakeholder engagement plan, but they're restricting it to a certain reason, to include emergency contact details. That's not important whatsoever. That's not important whatsoever. This does not solve the core problem. If they said revise the stakeholder engagement plan, then I would have to debate between A and C. But they don't. They're restricted to a certain reason. So C is gone. C doesn't solve the core problem. D, adjust the resource calendar for enrolled team members in the resource management plan. So again, this is not a resource problem. This is a communications problem. So A is going to be the best answer in this case. Awesome. Let us move on to question 29. A PM is assigned to a project within a program. So program management. The high-level requirements for the project are known, but the priorities of some requirements are unclear as they depend on other ongoing projects within the program. Interesting. How should the project manager prepare for the next steps of the project? Okay. So you have a situation, and if you guys remember the definition of a program, you have basically a couple of projects that are interdependent on one another. In this case, in our situation, you have some outcomes that are perhaps prerequisites of other phases in the projects. So now it becomes a complicated situation. You have one project, let's say project A, that's not complete, but we need something from project B to complete it. So it's a whole mess. Okay, what do we do now as a project manager? Escalate the issue, so we don't do that, but let's just read it. To the management team to extend the timeline. Okay, so there's two things wrong with that. Number one, we don't escalate things. This is principle number 8. Number 2, if we extend the timeline, that means that we are delaying the project. Remember, anything that gives an indication that the project is going to be delayed should be eliminated. So when the question mentions delay, extend, postpone, or if they say something like, we have a problem, let's wait until the end of the sprint or something. Eliminate that right away. B, wait for the estimates from the other projects before planning the schedule. Okay. All right, but this doesn't really solve the problem where the priorities of some requirements are unclear. So it's not really a scheduling problem. All right, let's move on. Prioritize and estimate the milestones for the high-level requirements based on historical data. Interesting. I like the first part. Prioritize and estimate milestones for high-level requirements, okay? Based on historical data. Do they mention anything about historical data in the project or in the question? Okay, they don't. Let's move on. D, request the project management office to estimate tasks for all projects and share the project management plan. Okay, so PMO is not going to do that. I know that for a fact. We all know that for a fact, right? It's the project manager's responsibility to figure out the estimates, to either gather the team, because the team are the experts, and they'll be able to best guide the project manager on what the estimate should be. So D is gone. It's out of the picture. A is gone. Now, B, we're not going to do. Why? Because B is wait for the estimate. So wait, we don't want to do that because of delays. We're left with C. Okay? Now, C is very interesting because C mentions that they're based on historical data. But now you're wondering, hey, Mohammed, they don't even say anything about historical data, that there's been a past project and this and that. Yes, I know. And these questions, again, are not exactly what you will see on the exam, but they're close. On your exam, you will see something like prioritize and estimate the milestones for high-level requirements. That's it. Not based on historical data, unless that was mentioned in the question, or based on a past project, unless that was mentioned in the question, meaning that the question stipulates or the question mentions that there's been a past project that's been done. Okay? But C is a good answer. We get to C because we eliminate the rest of the answers. Right? Awesome. Let us move on to question 30. A new team member has joined an agile project, replacing a team member who recently left. The project team needs the new team member to quickly become effective in contributing to the project. What should the project manager do? Okay. So we have a new team member, and this new team member has to basically get caught up. This new team member has to learn the ropes quickly so that he or she can be effective. Assign the new team member the same tasks that were given to the team member that you replaced. Okay, yeah, that's what we're obviously going to do, but how are we going to help this team member learn the ropes? Schedule knowledge transfer session and assign less complex tasks to the new team member. Okay, that's a good solution. I like the first one especially. Knowledge transfer sessions, so the team member is caught up, and of course, you want to be a little bit lighter on this team member because he or she is still learning. So give this person less complex tasks. Okay, I see where this is going. Send technical documentation to the new team member and schedule training for the next iteration. Okay. Next iteration, what did I tell you guys? If you're delaying the solution, it is a delay. Eliminate that. We're looking to help this team member now, and we want this team member to become effective now. Have the new team member complete all of the company's mandatory training. Oh, I hate those trainings, guys. Remember, every time you're new to a company, they give you a whole bunch of training videos and you have to watch. What would you do in this situation? Anyways, so the company's mandatory training is not the same as the project training or the project knowledge, the knowledge that's within the project. So D is not going to be a good answer to solve the question. The best answer here is going to be B. Anytime someone is new to the company, you want to always offer them some knowledge transfer sessions. Very important. That's the best way to help someone learn their role. Take care and have a fantastic rest of the day. I will see you in the next video.